For Trump's other claim that he doesn't know anything about the project, let's just deconstruct that sentence on its surface. Quote, I know nothing about Project 2025, but then he goes on to say he disagrees with some of the things that they're saying. He knows nothing about it, but disagrees with it?
Got him. We got him.
First, the Heritage says the foundation briefed all of the Republican candidates on the project, including Trump himself. In fact, the Heritage president reportedly installed Trump's advisors on purpose, knowing that Trump prioritizes personal loyalty over policy. And when Trump says that some of the ideas are ridiculous and abysmal, while some of that is perhaps believable given his waffling on issues like abortion, much of the project lines up completely with Trump's own promises. Now, this is hardly an exhaustive list, but they include killing the Department of Education, crushing the independence of the FBI and the DOJ, the mass firings of civil servants, and mass deportations. And so while Trump may not be the architect of this blueprint, his loyalists are their developers. He is certainly the mogul. And remember, he always notes that he only hires the best people.
Project 2025? Never heard of it. I mean, sure, there were 30 former Trump administration and campaign officials involved in the project, including Stephen Miller, Peter Navarro, Ben Carson, and those literally touted to be Trump's chief of staff if given another pop at fascism, but still.
Eventually it happens to everybody. Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Donald Trump's age-old, hardly knew him defense. When things get icky, sticky, Trump's suddenly a stranger to whoever it is. The crosshairs. He's barely met the person. He doesn't know anything about them. Never heard of them. That same defense popped up again over the weekend. This time it wasn't a person who'd once worked for him, but to an entire radical agenda laid out by Trump's closest allies, which includes eliminating the Department of Education, criminalizing abortion medicine, and installing an army of loyalists to replace those serving in federal agencies.
Now, all sarcasm aside, for most of us paying attention, Trump claiming he's never heard of Project 2025 is as believable as Trump claiming he wasn't besties with Epstein. For those less inclined to believe the blatant obvious, I introduce you to this segment by CNN's Abby Phillip, who broke down just how bogus the claim is that Trump knows nothing about the project he also disagrees with.
The conservative in charge of Project 2025 calls their efforts to start a bloodless revolution. The project, of course, is the 922-page wish list of actions to fundamentally change the American government, society, and life. This right here is it, the printout of that plan. The vessel, though, that they plan to use to accomplish it is Donald Trump, who now says that he knows nothing about this project, nor does he have any idea who's behind it. Well, that's BS, no matter which way you shovel it. And here is the evidence.
First, by showing footage of Trump in 2022 praising the Heritage Foundation, the group that created the extreme blueprint for a potential second Trump administration, calling it a legendary institution.
The group behind this project is the Heritage Foundation. It is a group that Trump is not only familiar with, but relies on them for policy advice and guidance. Just ask him.
For nearly 50 years, this legendary institution, which is what it is, has been at the forefront of the conservative movement, helping lead the fight to defend our cherished American history, culture, and traditions. Our country is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. Encourage new thinking, embrace new directions, and keep Heritage at the vanguard of the conservative movement. I think tremendous things are going to be coming out of Heritage. Each of you here tonight, I ask you to think big, dream bigger, aim higher, get ready to work. I know how wealthy the people in this room are. So start shelling out to Heritage.
That being the same institution that his former foes turned shameless cult followers have also praised in the past.
And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy.
And it's good to see you. And thank you to Heritage for inviting us here, giving us this opportunity, and for all the scholarship that they do here that really serves as a guidepost for a lot of the public policy we choose to make.
Not to forget that Trump's former VP, who won't endorse him because of that whole putting his life in jeopardy thing, said in 2019 that the Conservative Foundation had been, quote, fighting side by side with the president and this administration since day one, describing how they drew on scholarship and resources from the historic think tank.
So just how influential was Heritage in the Trump administration? Well, just listen to Trump's own former vice president.
Heritage Foundation has been fighting side by side with this president and this administration since day one. And we have a stronger America as a result. From right in the transition, we went to work availing ourselves of the resources available from the Heritage Foundation. We laid out plans for this administration. We drew on the scholarship and the resources of this historic think tank.
Now, the man in charge of the Heritage Foundation is also someone that Trump is quite familiar with.
I want to thank Kevin. He's going to be so incredible. Heritage Foundation president, somebody else doing an unbelievable job. He's bringing it back to levels it's never seen. Dr. Kevin Roberts.
And here's how the Heritage Foundation's president described the project, as he literally shared the same stage as Donald Trump.
Our Project 2025 has developed a comprehensive policy agenda, but even more importantly, recruiting people, 20,000 people to go into the next administration, hopefully to help take back this country for you and for your audiences. We want no credit. We want the American people, if President Trump is elected again, President Trump and his administration, to take credit for that.
The man overseeing the project itself signals that he will be there to implement it inside of a future Trump West Wing.
My name's Paul Dans, and it's my privilege to be with you tonight. I'm from the Heritage Foundation. My former boss, President Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say, hey, Kevin, it's been great working with you, but I kind of want to go back to work for my old boss. So I'm going to give you an official 10-month notice today. But praise the Lord.
And rounding out the least surprising thing since Marjorie Taylor Greene thinking Paul Revere signed the Declaration of Independence, Philip pointed out the way in which much of the project, quote, lines up completely with Trump's own promises, including things like gutting the Department of Education, crushing the independence of the Justice Department, overhauling the federal government to make it easier to fire civil servants, and mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. You know, all the stuff deemed less newsworthy than the president's debate performance.
More than 30 former administration and campaign officials, including Stephen Miller, Ken Cuccinelli, Stephen Moore, Peter Navarro, and Ben Carson, all who Trump would have a hard time convincing us he doesn't actually know.
A great patriot, a great negotiator for our country. He did a tremendous job. Steve Moore is so fantastic. And Steve, I want to thank you very much because you've been there right from the beginning. Wanted to put him on the Fed. A man who is tough and smart and loves our country. He's a real guy. He's a real patriot. Stephen Miller, my friend. Stephen Miller. Former Secretary Ben Carson did a fantastic job. Everybody loves him. I love him.
Now, as for Trump's other claim that he doesn't know anything about the project, let's just deconstruct that sentence on its surface. Quote, I know nothing about Project 2025, but then he goes on to say he disagrees with some of the things that they're saying. He knows nothing about it, but disagrees with it? First, the Heritage says the foundation briefed all of the Republican candidates on the project, including Trump himself. In fact, the Heritage president reportedly installed Trump's advisors on purpose, knowing that Trump prioritizes personal loyalty over policy. And when Trump says that some of the ideas are ridiculous and abysmal, while some of that is perhaps believable given his waffling on issues like abortion, much of the project lines up completely with Trump's own promises. Now, this is hardly an exhaustive list, but they include killing the Department of Education, crushing the independence of the FBI and the DOJ, the mass firings of civil servants, and mass deportations. And so while Trump may not be the architect of this blueprint, his loyalists are their developers. He is certainly the mogul. And remember, he always notes that he only hires the best people.
And the thing is, this is why more segments like this are desperately needed, because I've never been one to claim Biden should be free from scrutiny. In fact, go and look at many of my videos. I've heavily scrutinized him on countless issues. It's kind of what separates us from the cult on the other side. But if we're going to zone in on things like mental acuity, how about focusing as well on his performance as president, because that is a significant indicator, and his plans for the future compared to the alternative, what he accomplished when he was in office and what hell he seeks to unleash if given the chance to get back in.
Why won't you just take your issues to the American people? Why are you trying to hide your plans that are connected to Trump's Project 2025 publicly, but then you come to the House floor and you bring this extreme MAGA Republican voter suppression bill that is part of the blueprint of Trump's Project 2025? You can't fool the American people. They're smarter than you think.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.